Welcome to another Liquid Bullet Productionz. Back for part 2 is Mr. Terry Ellis.
Well, there you come back. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
It's nice to be here again, lads. Your loyalty, amongst your lot is pretty strong.
Yeah.
And you know what? You couldn't live with yourself. You know, your family live in the area. You know, your kids grow up in the area. You know, so you just wouldn't do it. Period. Yeah. And you know, so knowing that, I know that if any of my pals got nicked, they would never grass me up.
Yeah.
So you know, and I would never do the same to them. So it wasn't an internal battle. It was just an easy thing. And they said I could be home by Christmas, and I said no, fuck it. And then I ended up getting 17 years.
17.
Yeah.
How many did you serve out of that?
8 years, 4.5 months.
Blimey.
Yeah.
So how long was the actual court case for that go on for?
Oh no, I went guilty. I went on for about 7 months. You know, going back and forward. So you go on production, you go on remand, you're in there for 7, 8. Well, they write a load of bollocks reports on you. You know, psychological reports and everything else, and then all this kind of they go in there. They have to have their pound of flesh. They have to tell you what piece of shit you are. You know, how much you've damaged the reputation of the police. You know, which is all truthful. You know, because you know, as criminals, we live above the law. We think that we're entitled to anything, and we take what we want. You know, and it's not how people should be. You know, but we have that self-entitlement as criminals. And I remember I felt affronted with my sentence. You know, but I realised, you know, after a few years sitting behind a door, that you know what, I fucking deserved everything. Yeah. You know, I deserved exactly what I got. You know, I had gone into lots of places over the years, and I took fucking lots of liberties, and you know, this was my day in court. I was getting paid back.
It happened, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so I wasn't too fussed. I had to do 8 years. To most people, that probably sounds like a really long time.
Yeah, it does to me.
Yeah.
Years. Yeah.
I think you know when you've been. When I was in a kids' home when I was as a young kid. I was put in a care when I was about 11, and then I was put in community homes and everything else, and then I've done a bit of bird. When I left there, I got 6 years for armed robbery when I was a kid. Yeah. 16.
Can we just jump back to the beginning, Terry? So sort of where it started for you, where you grew up, etc., etc.
I live in Camden town. It's a beautiful area. We've got Hampstead Heath, we've got Camden. You know, it's beautiful place to live. However, it It's quite poor back in the day, you know, when I was younger. So most of the people in the area were all at it, you know, everyone was at it. And as young kids, we were breaking into shops.
What sort of age was that? Sort of?
Oh, 8, 9 years old, 11 years old.
Just sort of petty thieving, like chocolate and...
Well, you know what? I'd go out at 10, 11 o'clock at night and do warehouses because we had,
really?
you know,
That age,
yeah. In Camden, you had a canal that goes all the way through King's Cross.
Yeah.
And we had toy warehouses, you know, clothes warehouses, shoe warehouses. There was everything. So I spent all my childhood going up drain pipes or you know up fire exit stairs and then going through the roofs and just taking what I wanted. And give them to my mum, and she would sell them and a bingo, and then we'd have a few quid. You know, just breaking into jean warehouses. You know, I can remember going through a roof of one in King's Cross. I was only a young kid. I can remember, you know, abseiling down this rope, you know, little rope, and then and my mate saying to me, "It's like sweet, you know, no dramas. There's no alarm or fuck all. Just don't open none of the doors. Just tie everything up and I'll pull it out." Okay. So I got down there and the fucking alarm went off, and then I couldn't get back up because I was, you know, where I went down. I wasn't a professional abseiler, so I fucking burnt my hands and you know, you go down. So when I tried to get back up, I couldn't, and all I could hear was him going, "Oh fucking hell!" It was pitch black in there, you know, a little torch in my mouth, and I'm thinking, "Fuck, I'm stuck here now." And he's saying, "Oh bollocks!" You know, and then I heard the police sirens, and I thought, "Fuck." Then as I looked on the wall, there was an iron gird that went all the way up, and as I put my hand around the back of it, there was a gap. So I thought, "Oh fuck it!" I thought, what did I sort of monkey climbed all the way up to the roof again. It's about, I don't know, 50, 60 foot it was, and I went up there like in wrapped with drain pipe, and I got back up, and as I looked over the roof, all the old bill were pulling up. So we ran to the back of it, and we ran across the lines, train lines, and it was pitch black, you know. And then there was 3 or 4 old bill with their torches. And before we went in there, we cut the fence, so we knew that if we got we could go. But that went into a graveyard. Right. So we got into the graveyard. As I looked around, he's gone that way, my pal, and I thought, fuck it, I'll go that way. And then I see all these old people with their torches. So I sort of got into a crypt, you know, like a graveyard crypt. There's a hole in it, so I just pulled myself in there. and then all the old people were running up and down, and you know, about 10 or 15 minutes, the sort of noise subsided, but then all the eerie noise came, you know, like the paranoia. I thought, fuck me, if this thing collapses on me, no one's gonna even know I'm fucking here. Yeah. And then I thought I heard something, and then I thought, oh fuck this. So I got out of it and I legged it, and then I went home, you know. So that was, you know, that was as a kid. Yeah. You know, we were quite entrepreneurial as kids. You know, I can remember my pal phoning me up. We had one of them old shit phones in the house. And you know the ringers. Yeah. And I remember getting a phone call from him saying, "Can meet me down King's Cross?" And he said, "There's you know." So we went over there, and all the train lines come through King's Cross and everywhere. There's loads of international freight and all that comes through. Yeah. And there's a one with all loads of cars. It goes to Dagenham or wherever it went. But every time it came through, we jumped on it, and when we opened the doors, there was all radios in there. Oh right. So we jumped on it, and we had 3 or 4 black bags. And we went from car to car, and we just, you know, dropped them on the floor, and while it was going, you know, we got 4 or 5 miles up the road, and we jumped off. Then we would
using the stereos that used to sort of slide in,
yeah, just radios.
The old days.
Yeah, we would unscrew them. There would be a bit on the side, and then there'd be a bit that you had to take out the compartment, and you fitted it in. Yeah. So we thought, oh, we cracked it. You know, we're nicking 10 quid or 15 quid a throw. You know, we were millionaires, only young kids. You know what I mean? So like. So that was our sort of foray into crime, you know, and I think, you know, my other, as a young kid, was parking meters. I remember I nicked a car, and I drove it down a place called Fine Janelle in Camden town, and I knocked over a parking meter, and I got out of the car because it rolled. What, the old ones we put the sort of 20p's in there? Yeah. And I can remember that the meter was on the floor, but the head had come off. Yeah. So when I got out of the car, it was about 1:30, 1 in the morning. And I was a bit dazed and I was on my own, you know. And I saw the meter and I picked it up and I took it home. And then the next day, I got a sledgehammer and I smashed it open, and there was loads of money in it. So for the next couple of months, I end up chopping meters in half, cutting them off and
Taking
taking them. So yeah, we, you know, as young kids,
Yeah.
we just done what young kids done.
What sort of money was being held in them roughly?
Oh, you know, 10 quid,
Yeah.
if that. But you know, to a young kid,
Yeah, that's a
young
lot of
kid
money.
who never got pocket money or anything.
Yeah, that's a lot
It was
of
a
money.
fortune. You could buy a pair of shoes for like £5.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, and jeans and everything for less than that. Yeah. So you know, we were fast becoming
Getting involved in the criminal path more.
Yeah, you know, you do, and then I got in. I was coming in late. I got in trouble. I got expelled, and then I got put in the care.
Oh right.
You
At
know,
what age was this?
I was
Terry?
11. You
11.
know, I went into a care home. I can remember going there. My mum came from school, and she said, "Pack your gear, put a bag of gear. You got to come down with me." That was it. And then my social worker was there, and they took me to this place. And there's 3 or 4 guys in there, a couple of women, and that, loads of other kids. You know, all playing down there. But I never saw them. I could hear them.
Yeah.
And they said, "You got to stay here." I said, "I don't want to fucking stay here." You know what I mean? And then I was only, you know, so I was only young. And then she said, "I'm going." That was it. She walked out. You know, she had gone, and then my social worker had gone, and I said, "I'm not staying here." And then the geezer just went whack, boff, whacked me in the face. Yeah. I said, "You ain't going nowhere." And
So a full-grown man's it basically punched an
Yeah.
11-year-old kid.
Yeah, it was. You know, I think up until that time I'd never been hit by an adult. You know, I've been hit by my old man giving fucking.
Big difference, though, isn't it? Like a kid and an adult strength is.
It's funny. I went back there last year. I walked up and I can remember I was only up to the first window.
Yeah.
You know, I'm up to the top now.
Yeah.
You know, so I can remember it, and I realised that because you know, you normalise it. I thought it was normal because I can remember them all whacking me, and saying calm down, it was just always in my head. How can you be whacking me and asking me to fucking calm down?
Yeah, it's going to make you worse, isn't it? It's going to.
Well, eventually I did. I had no other option but to just calm down, and they put me in a room, and you know, it was a secure place. You couldn't get out of there.
Yeah.
And I spent 6 months there, and then I got taken to a place called Stamford House in Shepherd's Bush. And if I thought that beating was fucking bad, you know, I'd gone into the lion's den as far as like kids. You know, you got kids my age, you know, 11, 12, up to 15, 16 years old in this place, and they're the worst kids in London. And you know, I can remember going to this place and thinking, fucking hell, you know, I'm not used to this. I'm not, you know, I got my pals and we do our bits and pieces. We do a bit of skullduggery, but we're not hardcore criminals. You know, we're young kids. And I've gone in this place and it was just the hardest kids in London. And I can remember going into a place called Hanby, and then I went upstairs and, you know, the screw left, or the care guy. And then the next thing I knew, I got jumped by these 3 guys. And said, like, you know, if you want to live here and live in that bed, you've got to pay us tuck.
Oh, you're joking.
Fuck me, here we go. And then, you know, I can remember that night they come into my room and pulled the covers over me and started whacking me and pissing in other kids' beds and everything else, and pissing over their heads and everything else. It was a proper, you know, there was like 16 beds in there, and it was like all I can hear was kids crying.
Just horrible bullies.
Yeah, it was
in there.
horrible place. But there's only, you know, there was 11 up to 13, 14, and 15 in this gaff.
Yeah.
In the other houses, they were older, and I can remember, I can remember going to get my tuck, and they come in, and I said, "I ain't fucking giving you nothing." And then they all jumped me again, and they took all the tuck, and I thought, well, you know what? As much as I can handle myself, I can't fight 3 or 4 people. It's impossible. You know, so, you know, after 3 or 4 weeks, it sort of calmed down. They never got my tuck. You know, I thought, fuck it, if you're going to do this, you might as well take it off me, because they didn't get it free. And then I was swimming one day, and we went for a swimming session, because in this place there was a swimming session there, and I was swimming away, and then I felt a sort of sharp prick in my side. I got stabbed. Someone stabbed me with an afro cone, and it was a white guy, because most of them were black kids in there.
Right.
It was all predominantly black, and there was a couple of white kids there, and this white kid was one of them. You know, he was one of the enemy as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
He was a bloody little shit. And he stabbed me in the side, but he had an afro comb. So I got on, I saw the blood, and I thought, fucking you little prick. So I grabbed hold of it, and I just started stabbing him in the head. And then the next thing I knew, all hell broke loose, and I was taken down the block. And it was actually quite, I thought, well, this is all right. At least I got my own cell.
Yeah.
However, you know, and he deserved it anyway. I never used a tool up until then. I never ever used a knife or anything. You know, I realised then, in that one moment, you know what? you got to fight fire with fire. Whatever I can get my hands on now. If anyone comes near me, they're fucking gonna get it because I'm not having this. But he took a liberty. I took a liberty back. I spent a few weeks in the block, and when I went back, the head guy that was their sort of leader, he'd gone.
Right.
And now just these fucking mugs, and the whole dynamics had changed.
Gotcha.
Because I'm back on the wing now, on the house, and they actually asked me to be part of their gang.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I said, "Well, fuck off," you know what I mean? So I teamed up with a few other guys.
Yeah.
And it stopped. We stopped all the bullying, all the taxing, and everything else, and it became a sort of nice place to live.
Yeah.
And just as it settled down, then I had to move.
Oh,
so I
moved. Did you not put somewhere else? Another?
Yeah, they put me into a community home. They took me. Right. That's what I say about care. They then take you 100 miles away from your family, and they drop you in a fucking. Believe it or not, where they dropped me was actually quite nice. It was actually a big manor house. It was a farm, and it's probably. I spent a couple of years there. Probably one of the best experiences as a young kid I could have had. I worked on a farm with animals and I sort of would calm down a bit. I had dyslexia, and I was very disruptive, argumentative, hostile, you name it. Everything associated with shame, embarrassment of having dyslexia brought out the worst in me because I just couldn't be around people. And I felt embarrassed. And but I worked on a farm, and all of a sudden, I was in this place, and it was a mixed community home. And unfortunately, as a young guy who thinks he's Charlie Potatoes. I was only 12, 13, 14 then, I've been in there a couple of years, and I got a bird pregnant, and then they kicked me out of there. And then I ended up coming back to London, and they put me in a place not very far from here called Dorney Towers. It's like a little shared flat. And then I met a couple of guys who were quite hardcore criminals, and they were doing post offices, banks, building societies and all that. And I got roped in. Never got roped in. I volunteered because I was working filling up skips for fucking 2 bob. Yeah. I always say to people, "Why do you become a criminal?" Because it's quite simple. Because I'm fucking lazy.
Yeah.
I'm not. There's no other excuse. It's not about. Being brought up in poverty. It's not.
I suppose you can earn, like you say, you're going to work a week to earn 300-400 quid, and you can go and do a job for an hour, you've got the same money. Yeah,
I was always lazy, and I always looked upon people going to work as like, fuck all that. We're different. Unfortunately, people are made different. Some people want to go out working every day, and some people want it for nothing. And unfortunately, I had dyslexia, and I wanted everything for nothing.
Yeah.
And I got involved in it, and the next thing I knew, I was doing post offices, and fucking hell, I'm nicking like 3,000 or 4,000 quid every other day, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, I'm a big Charlie Potatoes. I've got lovely clothes now. One minute I've got fuck all. I'm living in a shit old shared gaff with some tossers, with 3 other guys, and next thing I'm renting up my own flat.
Do you find that's like addictive though? Like if you're robbing someone, you're getting loads of money quick. Is it like then you're living a different lifestyle? Is that sort of a?
Oh yeah.
Sort of,
I think you put it down to people say, is it you get a high or a buzz? I never ever got a high or a buzz out of it. When I done Verizon, I did.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was a certain sort of buzz because it wasn't I'd been at it for years, and it was a job. So my job was criminality. That was it. I never saw anything other than that it was a job. But back when I was a young kid, and I remember going to do my first post office, and I think, fucking hell, this is really easy. I had a little sauna shotgun, and fucking, and again, I'm in the safe, taking all the money out. I thought, this is all right. And and then it becomes sort of addictive. I was going out doing 2 or 3 post offices every week.
Blimey.
And thinking, fuck, this is well. And I was, and because I was quite big for my age, I was then going out to all the clubs. Like people look at clubs like in Camden and all that, but in the criminal sort of underworld, you've got clubs, underground shebeens and drinking clubs. Yeah. So you can go and buy guns, you can buy anything. You can get cars delivered to you, you can get drugs or whatever. They're not like your normal clubs where everyone's dancing around their fucking handbags. You go and have a drink, you meet all your pals, and they're all armed robbers. Right. They're all at it. They're from fraudsters.
So you're connected in like a circle of such.
And unfortunately, I was young, I had money, and that then gave me the opportunity to meet all these people and then create a network of contacts.
Yeah. Can I just jump in there? You said about the criminal underworld.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you, in your own opinion, what is the criminal underworld?
I think for me, the criminal underworld is right. Really, come over here, you little fucker.
A little
Come
scratch.
Here. Come here. Criminal underworld. It's really just a group of friends. You know, there is a massive network of criminals. There's no doubt about it. There's lots of organised crime, but you know, we was organised, but we had little pockets. Now, we're organised as far as organised crime is concerned.
Yeah.
There is an underworld. There is an underbelly of people that you can go to and get anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, you can go and get guns. You can go and get passports. You can go. So I imagine that is the underworld. But there's nothing. There's not like a. You know, you don't join a club and that's it. You just meet
so it's
as
just
you
a
get
connection
older.
through doing the crimes you're doing to get into that sort of network.
Yeah, and you've got in every major city, you know, Manchester, Liverpool, even London, you've got organised families, organised crime, you've got organised everything. So you know, it's just a word. Yeah. You know, we just done our own thing and that was it. You know?
Got you. Yeah, so where does that sort of take you from there, Terry? So obviously doing armed robberies with the post office and that. What sort of age is that up to now?
I think I was doing the post office when I was 16. Just let him know. That might be better for him. I think I was 16 years old. Yeah. And you know, I was doing the post offices, and then I got nicked when I was 17, 18 years old. Right. I can always remember going home because it's, you know, when you're doing it, it's like it's a game of cat and mouse. Yeah. And I can remember going home, and then I was renting a place up in Hampstead, and I put my key in the door, and I felt all the heckles on my neck go, and it felt something weren't right. And all of a sudden, I opened the door, and a fucking old Bill came from everywhere with guns. They all had little, revolvers back in them days, and one of them smashed me across the fucking head. Someone kicked me in the buttocks, my feet went. I was on the floor, spread eagles, and I had guns in my head, and that was the only time I ever realised that this is not a game anymore. This is for real, you know. And these are grown men, and they were pretty fucking hostile. But you know what? You suck it up as a criminal, and you just think, all right, fair cop, and that's it. You know, you get your bird, and then you go into prison, and you go with all good intentions that maybe I'm not really cut out for this life. Yeah. But the more you go into prison and the more you associate with other criminals, the more you realise that this is the only fucking life for you. Yeah. You know, because you can't go and work a 9 to 5. You can't, you know, you're not educated enough to go and work in a bank. Only rob them. You know, and then and that's all you got. So you make the best of a bad situation. Yeah.
Can I just ask you a little bit about your prison life? So how did you sort of, did you find it to deal with, and sort of how mentally did you find it challenging?
As I said, I was in care from a very young age, so prison to me was not something I looked at as somewhere that was anything other than my home. Right. Which is, I suppose, is pretty bad. You know, if we talk about institutionalisation, I don't think there's such a word as institutionalisation anyway. Because from the minute I get into prison, there's a minute I want to get the fuck out of there. You know, I'm thinking of the door. But I think it's like anything. As I said earlier, you know, you're not really geared up for prison. You know, people think because you're a criminal, then that's. You should be able to adapt to this, but it's not. You know, you're walking into a world that's is pretty alien to you. I can remember I was out with Kate Moss, Jude Law, Sunshine Frost, and a few people, you know, and I was in a £12 million house in a party. Oh, and the next day I got nicked. And I can remember sitting in the cell with all cockroaches and everything else, and I think, fucking hell. You know, for me, the noise of all, you know, all the screws walking past, the smell, the underlying thing of violence all the time. You know, we're all capable, but now you're in an environment where everyone's the same. Yeah. So it's not. I suppose you've always got to be sort of aware of your surroundings and all the time. Who's behind you. And you know, when you go into a local nick, you've got to share a cell. You know, so now you got the things that you hold dear to you, like just going to the toilet, you know, defecating, you know, a bit of
privacy's been sort of taken away from you.
You've now got to do that in front of someone else, maybe twice a day. Yeah. You know, you got to piss in front of them, eat in front of them. You know, you got to smoke in there, and now now he's going to do exactly the same. So now you got to smell his shit, his BO, his fucking rancid socks, everything. Yeah. And he's got his mental problems, and everything. Now you're stuck in a cell, and I don't think no one's actually ready for that. You know, most guys I know. You know, they're looked after as criminals.
Yeah.
They don't even know how to wash a pair of fucking trousers. So, you know, you can always know when someone comes in, you know, because they deteriorate really quick, you know, but as criminals, we adapt really quick as well. So, you know, they come in and they do. I think everyone that goes into prison struggles the first few days, first few weeks. You know, you get used to it and all of a sudden it just pings in. Oh, it's easy.
Yeah.
You know, prison is not hard simply because you're banged up 24 hours a day.
How do you find dealing with the other sort of prisoners in there? Obviously, got people in there for murder, people that kill children, blah blah blah. How does that sort of take toll on your sort of?
I think in a normal prison, you don't ever get an opportunity to actually engage with them people.
Right.
So you know, you don't ever. You know, it's just everyone keeps themselves to themselves. They keep their offences to themselves, and you know, you keep your own clique. So you got people from North London, South London, East London.
Yeah.
We all stick together. Someone looks like you, talks like you, mention someone you know, then you have it with them. That's
sort of makes
it.
a connection.
So, yeah, so you know, you look after each other in numbers and by your postcode.
Yeah.
You know, you don't really know these people. You're thrown together simply because of survival.
Yeah.
It was only when I got nicked for Verizon, and I had an opportunity to see a psychologist that I actually took the opportunity to go to a place called Camden. You know, Camden is a therapeutic prison. It houses 228 men, and some of the most heinous crimes. You know, like people that killed their kids, killed their whole families, rapists, paedophiles, serial killers, and you got the token recidivist and that token armed robber like me that actually were given an opportunity to go there.
What do you mean by an opportunity? What is the?
Well,
that doesn't sound like a good deal to me to go there.
Well, you know what? Like I was in prison, and you know I've done a few stints over the years, and you know what? You see the same fucking faces. You talk about the same bollocks. You know, you never have anything. You never talk about anything other than your family or your crime, and you never actually learn anything because rehabilitation is present form don't work in prison anyway. It's all bollocks. It's all tick box shit. Mm-hmm. You know. However, Camden was such a unique opportunity that you actually could go there and sort out yourself, the way you talk, the way you act, the way you think, because you act on what you think.
So there's people there to help you in different.
It's all based on cognitive therapy. So you say, for argument's sake, I go in there, I've never had no fear, I never had no empathy. So we start working on empathy, about victim awareness. But you also, through the whole process, you're meeting characters. I can remember having a conversation with one guy on a group, and he'd come in there, and he had played a game with his daughter, and he killed her. So what happened is that he was splitting up with his wife. He'd gone downstairs in the morning about 1 o'clock, 1ish, and he started to kill himself. Right. And he took a pill and had a drink. And then about 1:30 in the morning, his daughter came down. And he was quite upset. He was crying. His wife was asleep, and his other daughter was asleep. She was 9, and this other little kid was 6. And she said, "Daddy, what's the matter?" And he said, "I'm going to heaven." And she said, "Daddy, can I come with you?" And he went, "Yeah." So he played a game with her. So he gave her a tablet and a drink. And then after a while, she passed out, and she wasn't dead. So he took a plastic bag out the cupboard, out the kitchen cupboard, and when he was going through, he said, "I put it over her head," and she started scratching me and screaming and kicking and all that, and then she died. And that was quite hard.
Yeah, how can you do that to your own kid?
I know. Listening to it, I got kids, and I wanted to kill him. I felt a way. I wanted to make up for her loss. I wanted to really hurt him. But unfortunately, it was about working with that and internalising it, and it was about tolerance. It was about tolerating other fucking people. So I learned, I could never tolerate people. So that was one. I learned tolerance from that, and I met people that had killed other kids. I met one guy. His girlfriend used to go out all the time. She used to mess around, and he used to look after her 2 sons. He was their stepdad. And when she used to go, he used to torture him. He used to make him stand on one leg. He used to, make him do press-ups. He'd burn him with cigarettes. And then one night he punched his kid so hard he broke his spleen. And he always, I was listening to him, and he said, like, I always remember the look that passed between me and that kid just before he died, and said, "Dad, what have you done?" You know, and he said, and that was the first time I realised what I was doing. And you're around these people 24 hours a day, and you just want to fucking kill them. But you learn tolerance. So, and then you learn empathy at the same time. It's like it's a mixed thing. So now I started being empathetic towards the victims and their families.
Yeah.
So, you know,
so I suppose putting you in that situation is learning your own bit.
It takes weeks and weeks, because when you're listening to people that have killed their whole families. You know, like, you know, I was with one guy. He killed his mum and dad. You know, and another guy killed his 18-month-old daughter and his wife because he wanted a fresh start. You know, the psychological and the logic behind it all is crazy. You know, but you're learning all the time. And then I was never one to be really good with confrontation. You know, if someone annoyed me, I'd give them a whack on the jaw. If I was right, then I'll give them a whack on the jaw. If I was wrong, I'll still give them a whack on the jaw. So I never had that tolerance. But going through that conflict all the time and realising that every time I got into that situation, I always resorted to violence. And you know, if you do the same thing over and over again, and you expect a different outcome, then you're fucking an idiot. Yeah. So it's about really, it's about, for the first time in my life, I put myself in that situation loads of times over that 2.5 years I was there, and I realised one day that I'm doing the same thing all the time. So I have to change that, and I did. I started, instead of like attacking, I started to articulate. So I started to talk to them, so instead of reacting, with violence and the catalyst, I started to actually tell them exactly how they made me feel. So that was a real good. For me, it was a real good tool. Conflict resolution is like, most people, you sometimes, you overreact, you can kill someone. A lot of people I met inside.
So that was the turning point, really, of turning your life around, sort of.
It was massive. Like these little things that I learned, about ego, about embarrassment, about shame. 3 little things. And these are all the catalysts that make people go out and stab people and kill them. I met guys that, in prison. They'd had a sexual relationship with a guy on the air, and because they didn't want it to be found out, they then killed that guy.
Oh, mate.
Someone whose ego had been dented because someone slept with their missus. Yeah. Only their ego, and then they killed that person. And then the shame, the shame of being found out. So, so all these little things you sort of realise they don't really physically hurt. Yeah. Because when I'm arguing with these people, I'm in these confrontational situations, I feel embarrassed because I'm not doing what I should do. Yeah. So I'm working with that embarrassment. I'm working that my ego is being knocked because I'm surrounded by these fucking people. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden I realise it doesn't hurt. And then again I start operating on a completely different level. So the whole process is really crazy. The last thing I expected was to do a prison sentence and go into a place full of the worst people imaginable.
Yeah, but come out
and actually come in a better person, because my thinking completely changed. I couldn't have a conversation. Yeah. All I knew was criminality, and as criminals, what we do, we shut ourselves off from everyone. Because we don't want to open ourselves up to having to have a conversation. Yeah. It's so easy just to be hard, and not give yourself anything over. I see anyone can do that, but the minute you start talking to someone, you got to open up. You got to have a, and all, for me, being able to cry. I never cried even as a kid. Yeah. But we're listening to some of these stories, and then, putting myself in some of these positions I found myself in. Even talking about my own kids and my own childhood, I fucking broke down. Talking about being abandoned as a kid for your mum and that, and it was like. I found myself going to my cell and just shutting the door and just fucking leaning up against it and crying my eyes out. And I'd never done it before. So what happened then is that once I started crying and started thinking, it was like the tap, where I was so angry and so confrontational and so bent up all these years, it just went. Yeah. So the anger went.
It's just opened up a lot more feelings for you, and
and I started
passion of life, different passion of life.
So because yourself, I used to be a boxer. I used to do taekwondo. I used to be the first one in. I used to be always fucking doing weights, doing pull-ups. I think I could do 267 pull-ups in an hour. Okay. I was smashing it. I was a geezer. I was a real man's man. But it wasn't really me. I was building this fucking monster to push everyone away. The bigger I was, and the meaner I was, and everything else, then that's what people saw. They didn't really see the nice person in me that helped an old lady across the road, that look after my mum or look after my kids or whatever. It was just He was just this prick that I'd made up.
Yeah.
And to get rid of him and get rid of that voice, because that voice now is not as powerful as it used to be.
Yeah.
So what happens, that other voice that was really quiet and you don't
Just
want to do
overstepped
that, he's actually now the voice that I listen to, and that powerful voice that said, fuck off, just fucking do it, is gone. You know, it's still there.
Yeah.
Because even when I came out of prison, you know, there was I left prison with a tent. So after doing eight years, 4.5 months, and doing therapy, doing all the rehabilitation courses, I left prison with nowhere to live. So that's why I wrote the final countdown to my freedom, just to highlight the fact that most guys, you know, they do all the rehabilitation courses in prison, but they get let down at the last hurdle. They all leave prison with nowhere to live.
Yeah.
So I wrote that so to give people an heads up of what they should be doing while they're in prison. They should be looking at getting a job before they leave, getting somewhere to live, and actually creating a network of people that are going to help them instead of fucking, you know, make them foul. Like, because I know that for a fact that a lot of people that leave open prisons now, they've got nowhere to live. They live on people's couches, because what happens when you leave prison is that you get a travel warrant. Now, to get that travel warrant, you have to give a postcode.
Right.
Now, once you get that postcode, that's classed as successful rehousing. You've only got a travel warrant to go back to your area where you came from. You haven't even got nowhere to live, but that's on paper.
Blimey,
The prison can actually turn around and say we've got a 93% success rate of housing ex-offenders. You've only got to look here, postcode, where they all went.
Yeah, it's just ticking the boxes basically.
But most of them go back and they go into someone's front room. They live on the city. They get drunk. They go out and all of a sudden they're 3 or 4 weeks out. They're signing the dole. They've got no fucking hope of getting a job because no one wants to give you a job. And all of a sudden they revert back to type, and that's when that powerful voice says, oh fuck it, all the goodwill that I've had inside prison of changing my life is just fuck it, why should I? Yeah. And then what happens, you can then convince yourself that this life out here ain't worth a fuck. I might as well go back to my other life and chance it again. And it's a very thin line between going and doing it, especially when you're in a tent, you can't get a job, and you just think, and then someone says, yeah, I'll tell this 10 of coke, earn yourself some money. You think that to me, you know, I understand how it all works now, because for me it's about mindset.
Yeah.
If you've got a strong mindset, because the hardest thing to do is to go to work. You know, to actually go out and get a job and go to that job every single day, it takes a lot of character, believe it or not. If you're used to taking everything and getting large amounts of money, 5, 10, 15 or 100 grand a week, and then you're nicking a monkey, it's really hard. But once you get your head round it and you get your mindset and it's honest living, you start to adjust
to it.
Yeah, and I think it's that transition period. If you can get to that place and you get a strong mindset and you don't mind, and you can look at all the pitfalls of, if I do get nicked, I'm going back to that reality, or I stay here and do this. But I was quite fortunate. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get nowhere to live. And luckily I met Anna. She was actually a beauty. You know, she saved my life. And secondly, I got a job with my daughter and her boyfriend, because as soon as I came out, they decided to start a business called Scoff Mills, and it's a food business where we do nutritional food for gyms, people that want to change their
foods. Yeah,
but it's a unique thing because it's all marinated, and we've moved from. We're in our 4th kitchen now. We've got 4,000 square feet now. We employ 10 people, but we work 24 hours a day. And I get so much joy, so much satisfaction of going in there at 5 o'clock in the morning and leaving at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I work through the night sometime. Yeah. I get very little wages because we're growing the business, but we employ 10 people. Everything in the Scoff Mills belongs to us. We've now got an investment company coming on board that's going to take us to the next level. So all the hard work is paying off. So the message I give out by writing the books is that we are more than our past, and it's about, as I say, it's about mindset. So if you believe that you're capable of moving on and getting out of trouble, you do it. If you give up at the first hurdle and start selling gear, going back into criminality, there's only one outcome: back to prison.
Going back there.
So,
Terry, can I just jump in there? So obviously, you know, you pretty much reformed your character now, writing books. How did you get into this writing books, and how did you go down this path?
I wanted to write a book about Camden, because I read a couple of books about it that a couple of other people have wrote. and I thought that the narrative was pretty fucking skewed.
Yeah.
The one thing I learnt there is that there was 90% or 98% of the people going there was going for tick box. The rapists, the paedophiles, the murderers of kids and everything else. They were going there because they had to prove to everyone else that they'd changed.
Yeah.
You know, and really, I didn't see any real change. I saw a lot of manipulation. I saw a lot of acting in front of the cameras, and I saw the landing side of it. So, and I thought, you know what? These guys are actually learning to be more proficient predators. So where I see a guy, say just so I can say, I saw a rapist telling a group that, you know, I don't get any sex magazines sent in anymore. I don't think of women like that, and you know, I'm a changed person. You know what? For that, you know, Brendan has done me the world of good. And I'm a changed man, and I'll see him going into someone else's cell, taking a dirty magazine and going back. So I know he's lying.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I thought, you know, if they're all doing the same, you know, and the thing about Brendan, it works on a policy of, you know, we're changing lives, which in some respect, it did help me.
Yeah.
You know, because I learned tolerance, I learned lots of things. It's not the medicine that cures recidivism or cures anybody, but they championed the fact that it was. And then I realised that the same amount of people who were re-offending in mainstream prison was exactly the same as Brendan. So, and then I thought, you know, I'm sort of writing on this account of it. You know, Brendan does work on so many levels. Is because when you start talking about your past and your shame and your, you know, everything that goes on with childhood, that anger does go.
Yeah.
And the good thing about Brendan is that there wasn't that much violence there. When you consider the people that actually went there, the violence was practically nil. You know, there was no stabbings, there was no fighting, there was nothing there. So something worked there that I thought was really good, and that was a positive. So working on your shame, ego, and everything else, and empathy, I thought really worked. But I also felt that these guys that were inept in their relationships and the way they conducted their lives were actually learning skills that made them more proficient predators, because now they were thinking ahead. They were thinking, we know what, if I do this and do this and do this, I'm going to get nicked. So how do I do it now to avoid any, you know, getting nicked in the future? So really, I just wanted to write that down, and then I wrote Living Amongst the Beasts. And the good thing about that is I put it out there, and I self-publish.
Yeah.
And I got messages from all around the world. It sold we sold thousands of them, you know. And I was I don't know, you know, I was overwhelmed with I was getting messages from women all around the world messaging me saying how much they had taken from it, and because of the title says Living Amongst the Beasts, everyone thought I was going to lambast the place, but I never. I championed the therapy and championed the stuff that they did there, cognitive therapies. But it also empowered these ladies and men to actually look at themselves and actually start writing their own books.
Oh, wow.
And talking about their childhood abuse. Everything.
Yeah.
So really, and what it was, if I could do it,
other people got the idea as well.
Yeah, I spent the last 5 years now talking to people, going to schools, talking about dyslexia, saying, you know, I suffer from dyslexia, but you know what, I've written 10 books. Now, back in my day, we never had mobile phones, predictive text. You know, the world is not like it used to be. You know, I had an excuse to go out and be a criminal. There's no excuse now not to just get some technology and write and be whoever you are, and I'm proof of that. But also when I do talks, I talk about dyslexia and about shame, embarrassment, but also about owning it.
Yeah.
It's like if you own it, because I don't think they should exclude someone because they're not academically astute. You know, most kids with dyslexia, they suffer embarrassment, shame, and everything else, and I don't want that kid to go out and lead my life because he's embarrassed. I want the teachers to actually acknowledge the fact that his kid's got dyslexia. I want the kids to accept the fact that he's got dyslexia and ask for help. And I say to them, I've got it. And the minute you own it, your teacher's got to work with you. And your friends have got to accept it, and they can't take the piss at you, because if they do, then they're not your friends. Yeah. So, you know, so if we can take, you know, and I do talks, and I can remember doing a talk across the road, and these two kids, one of them in particular, said, I've got dyslexia, I can't read that. And he was quite boisterous when I first went in there, and then I see the real him come out. And I said, it's great, you know, I'm so glad you owned it now, because no one can take the piss out of you now. Yeah. And the teacher came up to me afterwards and said, he's never ever owned that. Huh. So, you know, I'm hoping that he's going to go ahead now and start.
So he's learned something from it, yeah.
Yeah, not worry about the shame and ego, because you know what, it does, it fucking drives you mental. It really does. You then create this persona of someone you ain't, just to pacify everyone else or appease everyone.
Terry, have you got any words of advice for sort of youngsters that sort of want to go into or are getting involved in crime? Is there any words of advice you can give to them?
Just be yourself. You know, the minute you join a gang, is you become someone completely different. You know, because now you're trying to please everyone else in that group. You're trying to outdo everyone, whether you're outdoing them in a fight or you're going to outdo them with a knife you carry, and then you attack someone, you stab them. You're only doing it for bravado. You know, when you're doing 20 years, or 21 years, or 25 years, all them kids are going to move on.
Yeah.
So the message that I give out when I go out to the community is that we shouldn't. You know, if you're a thief or you're a criminal, I can understand that, but I can't understand people protecting someone who's gone out and killed a kid.
No.
Because to me, there were some fucking rapists or paedophiles.
Yeah,
You killed someone's
definitely.
kid, but for some reason, because they've stabbed them with a knife, or they're in a gang, they're actually protecting them. And these are little kids they're killing.
Yeah.
So for me, the narrative is these are nothing more than scumbags, and they shouldn't be protected. And that honour code that they actually all appear to protect is not worth a fucking toss. You know, and I try to dispel the myth that if you want role models in this community, then look at someone who's working every day, single day. Don't look at someone who's stabbing people and selling drugs. So that's the message I like to give out.
Lovely. So we start to wind it up a bit there, Terry.
Yeah. Go
Start
on.
to wind it up. Is there any words of so people can follow you or where they can find your books?
If they can follow me on Twitter on Terry Ellis 992, on Instagram Terry Ellis 992, Terry Ellis on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I got a little group that I got on a book when I'd done the book. That's called The Your Views Matter. Terry Ellis again. And there's a couple of books here that I've got. But they're all on Amazon. So if you look,
I can find them all on Amazon.
If you go to Terry Ellis paperback books on Amazon, you got Verizon. I just finished this book. Yeah, I just got a kids book. I've done it in the COVID.
Yeah.
I wrote it
Stop
back.
that a little bit for us.
Yep.
Sorry, a little bit down a bit. Perfect.
Yeah, I've actually got two of them. I've got two girls to do all the drawings. Yep. And what I did is I dedicated it to all the school teachers and all the teaching assistants over there, and all the kids that are in the classes. I made them characters through the book.
Oh, cool.
And what I did, I donated that to the schools, and for every time we sell a book, we then buy another one. So I go to schools, hospitals, children's wards, and I give them away for nothing. So that's my giving something back. Say thank you. And I just started a thing called Boasting Media, where I can remember when I came out, I wanted to write the books. And when I went to the publishers and everything else, they was going to charge me 6,000 quid and 10 grand and everything else. And you know, coming out of prison and you got a story, you ain't got that money.
No.
And you know, even if you work for another couple of years, you still ain't going to have that money to give away. So I learned from trial and error. I teamed up with a guy called Chris Alston. And between the two of us, we've now brought that price down to between 1,200 and 1,000 quid.
Lovely.
And what we're doing now, we're actually giving people an opportunity to come out of prison, or people that want to write their first book. So what we do, we do the cover, we do the synopsis, we do the chaptering, we do the proofreading, we do the editing for them, and we charge them 1,000 quid, depending on how many. So if it's 120,000, 130,000 words, that's one book. Yeah. And that's 1,000 quid instead of 10 or 6,000 quid.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Big difference.
yeah. We've done a few good people so far, and hopefully we're gonna try and establish that, just to give people an opportunity to get their voice out there, because there's a lot of good kids in this community that don't get any recognition. You know, I ran a campaign for the last year or so to stop ITV, Channel 4, BBC One from putting these mugs on here with balaclavas and knives and guns, holding them up, saying they're from gangs.
Yeah.
You know, because I've had Channel 4 come to me and said, like, we want to speak to the kids in the area because I do knife crime and all that. You can put them on, but you can put balaclavas on them and put them behind the screen. I say, oh, fuck off.
No
Do you know
point.
what? It's you lot perpetuate that sort of
Like the
mentality.
image to portray,
yeah,
yeah.
so you know, so kids want to aspire to, they want to be on television. You know, but there are so many kids in this community that help out. They're in the youth clubs. You know, they're in they're helping the old people in the area. They're doing painting, they're doing art, they're doing apprenticeship. So many good kids, but don't even get a look in.
Yeah.
It's actually beneficial, or media beneficial, for actually put a kid who's carrying a shotgun and making him look like an idiot. And you know, and they're
Crazy world.
I know, and so for me, I've been running a campaign to actually stop that, for stopping doing it for the last couple of years now.
Great stuff. What is that campaign, Terry?
Well, I do a knife crime campaign now called Change Your Life, Put Down the Knife.
Yep.
And I've done a bit with Camden Against Violence for a few years as well. So, you know, we're hitting it in Camden, but we're also hitting it in Coventry. We've just started apprenticeships up there for kids to do tiling.
So if people want to contact you through that and join that, they can
we've just amalgamated ourselves now with a place called Let's Sanify. They're in Birmingham. They do manufacturing courses for young kids, and now we've gone into partnerships with them. So that works from Coventry to Birmingham. So the kids in Coventry will be able to send them straight there, so which is great. We've been working on that for the last year, and it's come to fruition now. Thank God.
Good stuff. All right, Terry, we'll start and wind it up. Thank you ever so much for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.